Here's a question that might make you uncomfortable. What would you do right now if your boss walked in and said something you didn't like? Would you speak up, push back, or would you bite your tongue, fake a smile, and take it because you literally can't afford to lose this job? Now imagine the exact same scenario, but this time you've got $10,000 sitting in your savings account. Same job, same boss, same annoying comment, but suddenly your response might be different. Not because you're going to storm out dramatically, but because that number in your account changes the power dynamic in ways most people never talk about. Over the past 5 years, I've interviewed hundreds of people about their relationship with money, and I've discovered something fascinating. There's a specific dollar amount where people stop feeling trapped and start feeling in control. That number isn't $1 million. It's not even 6 figures. It's $10,000. My name is Ben. I break down the real psychology of money and wealth building. If you're serious about changing how you think about money, you're in the right place. So hit subscribe and let's get started. If you've ever wondered what actually changes when you build real savings, or if you're tired of hearing vague advice like just save more without understanding why it matters, stick with me, because today we're breaking down the exact psychological shifts that happen when you cross this threshold. And if this helps you see money differently, hit that like button because we're going deep on financial psychology.
Let me tell you about two people I know. We'll call them Sarah and Mike. They both make $55,000 a year. They live in the same city. They have similar expenses, but their lives look completely different. Sarah has $347 in her checking account. Mike has $10,400 in savings. Last month, both of their cars needed new brakes, $680. For Sarah, this triggered a 3-day anxiety spiral. She calculated whether she could put it on her credit card, wondered if she could push it off another week, even considered asking her parents for money. She eventually paid for it, but it wiped out most of her buffer, and she spent the next 2 weeks eating ramen and canceling plans. Mike saw the same bill, sighed, paid it, and forgot about it by dinner. Same problem, same cost, completely different psychological experience. This is what I call the first freedom, freedom from panic. When you don't have savings, every unexpected expense feels like a catastrophe. Your laptop crashes? Catastrophe. Your tooth cracks? Catastrophe. Your company announces layoffs? Absolute catastrophe. You're not just dealing with the problem itself, you're dealing with the existential terror of, how am I going to survive this? But here's what's wild. According to research from the American Psychological Association, the stress response you have to financial uncertainty is nearly identical to the stress response you'd have to an actual physical threat. Your body literally cannot tell the difference between I might not make rent and there's a bear chasing me. So when you build up $10,000, you're not just saving money. You're turning off a threat detection system that's been running in the background of your brain 24/7. That's freedom from panic. The second freedom is freedom to choose. Think about your current job. Now be honest with yourself. If a better opportunity came along tomorrow, could you take it? Or would you have to stick with what you've got because you can't afford even a week or two between paychecks? This is where $10,000 becomes powerful in ways that have nothing to do with emergencies. It gives you negotiating power. It gives you the ability to say no to things that don't serve you. It gives you time to be strategic instead of desperate. I know a guy who got offered a new job with a $12,000 salary increase. Sounds great, right? But there was a 2-week gap between his last paycheck and his first paycheck at the new company. He had to turn it down, not because he didn't want the job, not because it wasn't a smart career move, but because he literally could not afford 2 weeks without income. That's what financial fragility looks like. You're locked into whatever situation you're currently in, not because it's the best option, but because you don't have the buffer to make a transition. When you have $10,000 saved, those handcuffs come off. You can take the job that pays less initially but has better long-term potential. You can move to a city with more opportunities. You can negotiate harder in salary discussions because walking away is actually an option. The third freedom is freedom to think. This one's subtle, but it might be the most important. When you're financially stressed, it literally reduces your cognitive capacity. There's a famous study from Princeton where researchers found that financial stress reduces your effective IQ by about 13 points. That's the difference between average intelligence and being classified as superior intelligence. Think about what that means. When you're worried about money, you're not just stressed, you're actually dumber. You make worse decisions, you miss opportunities, you can't focus on long-term planning because your brain is stuck in survival mode, scanning for immediate threats. But when you have savings, you get those IQ points back. Suddenly, you have the mental bandwidth to think about things like, how can I increase my income? Should I learn a new skill that could boost my career? What investments make sense for my goals? How can I optimize my taxes? These aren't questions you can engage with when you're in survival mode, but they're exactly the questions that separate people who build wealth from people who stay stuck. So that's the framework: freedom from panic, freedom to choose, and freedom to think. These three freedoms are what $10,000 actually buys you. Not stuff, not status, freedom.
Now let's talk about why $10,000 specifically. Why not $5,000? Why not $20,000? Is this just some arbitrary number that sounds nice? Actually, no, there's real logic here. According to data from the Federal Reserve, the median unexpected expense that Americans face is around $1,200. Car repairs, medical bills, emergency vet visits, most of these fall somewhere between $500 and $2,500. So if you've got $10,000 saved, you can handle basically any single emergency without breaking a sweat. But here's the more important number. The average person needs about 3 to 4 months of expenses to cover a job loss. For most people in the US, UK, Canada, or Australia, that's somewhere between $6,000 and $12,000. So $10,000 puts you right in the sweet spot where you can survive the most common financial disasters. There's also a psychological milestone that happens when you see 5 figures in your account for the first time. It's the first time money starts feeling like it's working for you instead of you working desperately to get money. Let me give you some real numbers. The Federal Reserve reported that 37% of Americans couldn't cover a $400 emergency without borrowing money or selling something. 37%. That means more than 1 in 3 people are one broken appliance away from financial crisis. But here's the flip side. Only about 15% of Americans have more than $10,000 in savings. So when you cross that threshold, you're not just improving your own situation, you're literally joining a different economic class. You're moving from the bottom 2/3 to the top 15%. Now, I can already hear some of you saying, that's great, but I can barely save $100 a month. How am I supposed to get to $10,000? Fair question. Let's do the math. If you save $100 per month, you'll hit $10,000 in 100 months. That's about 8 years. That sounds like forever, I know. But here's the thing. You're not going to stay at $100 per month the entire time. Most people who successfully build savings follow what I call the escalation pattern. You start at whatever amount feels doable, maybe $50, maybe $100. You maintain that for a few months until it becomes automatic. Then you look for ways to increase it. Maybe you get a raise and immediately redirect half of it to savings before you get used to the higher income. Maybe you pay off a credit card and redirect that payment to savings instead. Maybe you pick up a side gig for 3 months and throw everything from it into your savings account. Here's a realistic timeline that I've seen work for dozens of people. Months 1 through 6, save $100 per month equals $600. Months 7 through 12, increase to $150 per month equals $900. Total, $1,500. Months 13 through 18, increase to $200 per month equals $1,200. Total, $2,700. Months 19 through 24, find extra income source, save $400 per month equals $2,400. Total, $5,100. Months 25 through 36 continue at $400 per month equals $4,800. Total, $9,900. That's right around 3 years, not overnight, but also not decades. And here's the beautiful part. The hardest stretch is the first $1,000. Once you prove to yourself that you can save $1,000, your brain literally rewires. You start seeing yourself as someone who saves money instead of someone who's broke. That identity shift is everything. Let's talk about something that personal finance gurus almost never discuss:
You can't save your way to $10,000 if you still think of yourself as a broke person. I know that sounds like motivational poster nonsense, but stay with me. There's a concept in psychology called identity-based habits, and it's the difference between people who achieve goals and people who constantly start and give up. Here's how most people approach saving. I want to save $10,000, outcome-based goal. They create a strict budget, they white-knuckle it for a few weeks, they burn out and go back to old habits, they feel like failures. Here's how successful savers approach it. I'm becoming the type of person who has money saved, identity-based goal. They make small, sustainable changes. They focus on who they're becoming, not just what they're achieving. They build momentum slowly. They hit their goal almost by accident because they've become someone who naturally saves. The difference is subtle, but crucial. When you're trying to save $10,000, every dollar you don't save feels like failure. But when you're becoming a saver, every dollar you do save is evidence of your new identity. Let me give you a concrete example. Imagine you're trying to save money and you go out to dinner with friends. The check comes and it's $45, including tip. Outcome thinking, there goes $45 that I could have saved. I'm never going to hit my goal. I'm so bad with money. Identity thinking, I chose to spend $45 on an experience with friends. That's fine. Tomorrow, I'm packing lunch instead of buying it, which saves $12. That's what savers do. They make conscious choices about what's worth spending on. See the difference? Same action, completely different psychological impact. Here's how to actually build the identity of a saver. Step 1, start absurdly small. Don't try to save $500 in your first month. Save $20. The goal isn't to make progress. The goal is to prove to yourself that you're someone who saves. Do it consistently for 30 days. That's it. Step 2, create visible evidence. Open a separate savings account and name it something specific, My Freedom Fund or Financial Foundation or whatever resonates with you. Every time you transfer money there, you're creating evidence of your new identity. Step 3, track inputs, not just outputs. Don't just track how much you've saved. Track how many times you made a savings-aligned decision. Packed lunch instead of buying? Tally mark. Chose the cheaper phone plan? Tally mark. Each decision reinforces the identity. Step 4, surround yourself with evidence. This might sound weird, but it works. Follow people on social media who talk about financial responsibility. Listen to podcasts about money management. Read books about building wealth. You're not doing this to learn tactics. You're doing it to normalize the identity of being someone who cares about financial health. Step 5, reframe setbacks. You will have months where you can't save anything. That's fine. Savers sometimes have tough months. What they don't do is use one tough month as evidence that they're not the saving type. They acknowledge the reality, adjust, and continue. I've watched this transformation happen in real time with people I know. There's this moment, usually around $2,000 to $3,000 saved, where something clicks. They stop talking about trying to save and start talking about their savings like it's just part of who they are. One friend told me, I don't even think about it anymore. Every paycheck, money automatically goes to savings. It's just what I do now, like brushing my teeth. That's the identity shift. And once it happens, getting to $10,000 becomes inevitable.
All right, here's where things get really interesting. Because the benefits of having $10,000 saved go way beyond just having money in the bank. Your health literally improves. A study from the Journal of Family and Economic Issues found that people with emergency savings had significantly lower levels of chronic stress, better sleep quality, and fewer stress-related health problems. We're talking lower blood pressure, fewer headaches, better immune function. Think about that. Saving money isn't just a financial decision, it's a health intervention. Your relationships get better. Money is one of the top 3 causes of divorce, but it's not usually because people don't have enough money, it's because of the stress and conflict that financial instability creates. When you have savings, you're not constantly fighting about money. You're not resenting your partner for spending $30 on something. You're not avoiding conversations about bills because you're too anxious. Your earning potential increases. This one's counterintuitive, but research backs it up. People with savings earn more money over time than people without savings, even when controlling for starting income and education. Why? Because financial security changes how you show up professionally. When you're desperate for money, you accept whatever you can get. You don't negotiate, you don't ask for raises, you don't take risks on new opportunities. You stay in jobs you've outgrown because you can't afford the uncertainty of change. But when you have $10,000 saved, you can actually negotiate your salary. Studies show people with savings negotiate 23% harder, take calculated career risks that could lead to higher pay, invest in professional development, leave toxic work environments that were holding you back. I know someone who parlayed their $10,000 emergency fund into a $30,000 salary increase. Here's how. They had been working at a company for 3 years without a significant raise. They were good at their job but felt undervalued. Without savings, they couldn't risk rocking the boat. But once they hit $10,000, they scheduled a meeting with their boss and clearly laid out their value and their salary expectations. They weren't threatening to quit, but they were genuinely prepared to walk away if necessary. That confidence came through. They got a $15,000 raise. 6 months later, a recruiter reached out about a better opportunity. Normally, they would have ignored it. Switching jobs is risky, right? But with their financial foundation solid, they took the meeting. Long story short, they got an offer for $15,000 more than their current salary. They took it. That's a $30,000 income increase that was directly enabled by having savings. The savings didn't cause the opportunities, but it gave them the freedom to pursue opportunities they would have otherwise been too scared to consider. Your decision-making improves across the board. Remember how I mentioned earlier that financial stress reduces your cognitive function? Well, the inverse is also true. Financial stability improves your decision-making in every area of life. When you're not constantly in fight-or-flight mode about money, you make better decisions about what you eat, less stress eating, and more thoughtful meal planning, how you spend your time, more focus on long-term goals, who you spend time with, less tolerance for toxic relationships, how you respond to problems, more strategic, less reactive. There's actually a term for this in behavioral economics, scarcity mindset. When you're operating from scarcity, your brain is so focused on immediate survival that you can't think clearly about anything else. But abundance mindset, which $10,000 is enough to trigger, opens up entirely different neural pathways. You start thinking in terms of possibilities instead of limitations. You start seeing opportunities everywhere. This is my favorite compound effect. When you have no savings, every financial decision is about avoiding loss. Can I afford this? Will this hurt me? But when you have $10,000, you start asking different questions. Could this help me? Is this an investment in my future? Suddenly, you notice that $200 online course could teach you a skill that increases your income. That $500 certification could open doors in your industry. That networking event could connect you with people who change your career trajectory. That side business idea could be worth testing with a small investment. None of these opportunities are new. They were always there, but without savings, they were invisible to you because your brain was stuck in survival mode. With $10,000 saved, you unlock a completely different way of seeing the world.
All right, we've talked about why $10,000 matters and what it does for you. Now let's talk about how you actually get there. I'm going to give you a specific, actionable framework that works regardless of your income level. I call it the Foundation 4 method. Foundation number 1, automate the invisible. The biggest mistake people make is trying to manually move money to savings every month. That requires willpower, and willpower is a finite resource that runs out exactly when you need it most. Instead, set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to your savings account the day after your paycheck hits. Make it automatic and make it invisible. Start with whatever amount you can do without thinking about it. For some people, that's $25. For others, it might be $200. The amount doesn't matter as much as the automation. Here's the key. Set it up once and then pretend that money doesn't exist. Don't check your savings account every day. Let it accumulate in the background while you live your life. Foundation number 2, the gap strategy.
Every time you eliminate an expense, redirect that exact amount to savings before you get used to having it. Pay off a $150 car payment, that $150 goes straight to savings. Cancel a $15 streaming service you don't use, that $15 goes to savings. Get a cheaper phone plan that saves you $40. That $40 goes to savings. This is how you increase your savings rate without feeling like you're sacrificing. You're not taking money from your current lifestyle, you're capturing money that was already leaving your account. Foundation number 3, the income surge. At some point, you need to increase the amount coming in, not just decrease the amount going out. This doesn't mean you need to start a whole business, though you could. It means finding ways to add $200 to $500 per month in extra income. Some options that real people have used: freelancing in their area of expertise, writing, design, consulting, picking up a part-time gig on weekends for 3 to 6 months, selling stuff they don't need, you'd be surprised how much is sitting in your closet, negotiating a raise at their current job, taking on overtime when available. The goal isn't to do this forever, it's to create a surge for 3 to 6 months that dramatically accelerates your timeline. If you can add $400 per month in extra income and put it all towards savings, that's $2,400 in 6 months. That could cut your timeline to $10,000 in half. Foundation number 4, the protection protocol. This is the most important one. You need to protect your savings from yourself. Make your savings account slightly inconvenient to access. Don't get an ATM card for it. Use a different bank than your checking account so transfers take 2 to 3 days. Why? Because there will be moments when you want to dip into it for non-emergencies. I really want those concert tickets, I'll just take $200 from savings and pay it back next month. No, that's how savings accounts die. The only acceptable reasons to touch your emergency fund: actual emergencies, medical, job loss, essential repairs, or opportunities that will demonstrably increase your income. Everything else can wait or can be funded through your regular budget. The timeline reality check. Let me give you realistic timelines based on different savings rates. Aggressive, $500 per month equals 20 months. Moderate, $300 per month equals 33 months. Steady, $150 per month equals 66 months. Most people will fall somewhere in between these because they'll start at one rate and increase over time. The key is to start today, right now. Not next month when you have more money, not after you pay off your credit card, not when you get a raise. Today. Even if it's $20, start building the identity of a saver today.
Look, I'm not going to lie to you and say that saving $10,000 will solve all your problems. You're still going to have bad days. Your job might still be annoying. Your car will still make weird noises. But here's what changes. You'll handle all of it from a position of stability instead of desperation, and that changes everything. The person you become while building this foundation is worth more than the money itself. You'll develop discipline, patience, strategic thinking, and confidence that extends far beyond your bank account. So here's my challenge to you. Commit to saving something this month. Open that savings account. Set up that automatic transfer. Start building evidence that you're the type of person who takes control of their financial future. And 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, come back and tell me how it felt when you crossed that $10,000 threshold, because I guarantee it will feel different than you expect. If this video helped shift your perspective on what savings actually does for you, smash that like button and subscribe for more content on the psychology of money. Drop a comment and let me know what your current savings goal is. I read every single one. Your future self is going to thank you for starting today. Let's build that foundation.